This right here might actually be the dumbest thing we've ever done, or the greatest comeback this workshop has ever seen. Because sitting on this floor is the engine from a $3 million Bugatti Chiron per Sport, one of only 60 ever built. And according to Bugatti themselves, this car was never supposed to drive again. Insurance wrote it off. A Bugatti technician literally flew in from France, looked at this car, and basically said, "Nope, it's done. Unfixable. Finished. Game over." But somehow, we ended up buying it anyway. And if this goes wrong, if this chassis is bent, if the carbon tub is cracked, if the drivetrain is cooked, we haven't just made a mistake. We've bought the most expensive paperweight on the internet. And honestly, that terrifies me. Because this isn't just any rebuild. This could either become the biggest thing we've ever done.
And no disrespect to Mat Armstrong, I think he's doing amazing things. He's a great guy and all of that. Can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to.
Or the thing people point at and say, "Yep, that's where Matt lost his mind." You guys already know we've rebuilt some ridiculous cars. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, cars people said couldn't be fixed. But this Bugatti? This feels different. Because nobody rebuilds these. Not properly. Not outside Bugatti. And definitely not after a crash like this. Let me show you what we're dealing with. There she is. And honestly, it somehow looks even worse in person. The whole front end is destroyed. Carbon everywhere. Panels cracked. Suspension bent. Lights gone. Airbags deployed. And every single angle of this thing screams one sentence. Do not touch. But obviously, that's exactly what we're about to do. Now, before anyone starts blaming me in the comments, this man right here, this is Alex. And technically, this entire mess is his fault. Alex walks into frame laughing. "Listen, mate, I didn't wake up and plan to crash a $3 million Bugatti. Things just got a bit out of hand." A bit out of hand? Mate, you turned one of the rarest hypercars on Earth into a salvage title. That takes talent. But here's where the story gets crazy. Most people thought this Bugatti disappeared after the crash. Gone forever. Finished. But after insurance paid out, the car ended up at Copart. And instead of walking away, Alex bought it back. Nearly $2 million. For a wreck. Now at first that sounds completely insane. Until you realize something. A clean Bugatti Chiron per Sport? Over $4 million. So, technically, if we can actually pull this off, there's a chance this thing lives again. And maybe, just maybe, nobody loses their mind financially. But there's one massive problem. Bugatti wanted absolutely nothing to do with this rebuild. And I mean, nothing. The VIN got locked. Every dealer? Blocked. Parts? Not happening. No headlights. No body panels. No suspension. No help. Imagine buying a house. And then the company that built it says, "By the way, you're not allowed to buy bricks anymore." That's basically where we're at. And I'm not gonna lie. At one point, I genuinely thought this project was finished before it even started. Because fixing a Bugatti without Bugatti parts? That's like trying to build an airplane with YouTube tutorials and pure confidence. Which, to be fair, sounds exactly like something we try. So we started stripping the car down. And the deeper we went, the scarier it got. At first glance, you think, okay, front end damage. Bad. But manageable. Then we started digging. And found something nobody wanted to see. The drivetrain mount? Broken. Not cracked. Broken. Completely snapped. And suddenly, everything changed. Because this isn't cosmetic damage anymore. This is the sort of stuff that ends projects. The sort of damage that makes people quietly shut the garage door and pretend the car never existed. For a second, nobody said anything. We just stood there staring at it. And I kept thinking one thing. Please don't let the engine be gone. Please. Because if the engine's damaged, that's it. Series over. Dream dead. Internet laughs at us forever. So we kept going. Slowly. Carefully. And then came probably the maddest part of this entire thing. Bugatti said splitting one of these cars apart required specialist equipment. Basically factory-level stuff. Super expensive. Only a handful of places in the world can supposedly do it. Right. Fair enough. Except, we didn't have that equipment. So naturally, we improvised. Which sounds way more professional than it actually was. Reality? It was basically tools, determination, and a tiny bit of panic. And somehow, against all logic, it worked. The Bugatti split apart. Cleanly. And honestly, that moment felt massive. Because, for the first time, this impossible rebuild suddenly felt possible. Not easy. Definitely not safe for my stress levels. But possible. Then, we checked the engine. And this was the moment everything changed. The block looked okay. Actually okay. No catastrophic damage. No giant crack. No complete disaster. And suddenly, there was hope. Real hope. For the first time since this whole madness started, I thought, wait, could we actually pull this off? Could this thing actually drive again? But before we got too excited, reality hit us again. Because the broken mount still needed fixing. And guess what? No replacement. Bugatti wasn't selling one. No dealer had one. Nothing. So our only option? Fixed impossible. We sent it off to a specialist. And honestly, waiting for that phone call felt horrible. Because one sentence changes everything. Yeah, mate, it can't be repaired. That's the sentence I was expecting. Instead, we got the opposite. It's weldable. I'm not joking. That might have been the happiest I've felt this entire project. Because suddenly, we were back in business. Small win. Massive relief. And if you've ever rebuilt anything, you'll know exactly what I mean. Sometimes one tiny win keeps the whole thing alive. Then came another moment. We started putting things back together. Bolts. Wiring. Clips that somehow only fit one way, except when they don't. And this is the point where projects like this usually get dangerous. Because when a car is in pieces, everything feels honest. You can see the damage. You know what's broken. But the second you start putting it back together, that's when hidden problems start showing up. And trust me, this Bugatti had secrets. The deeper we got into it, the more nervous I became. You gotta understand, this isn't some BMW off Copart, where if something goes wrong, you order a new sensor for a couple $100 and move on. This is a Bugatti Chiron per sport. One of 60 in the world. One wrong move. You're not losing money. You're losing ridiculous money. We started reconnecting everything. Coolant lines, electronics, sensors, miles and miles of wiring that looked like they belonged inside a spaceship instead of a car. And somehow, things actually started looking good. Too good. That's always suspicious. Because every rebuild has that moment where you think, hang on, are we actually winning here? And usually, that's exactly when something horrible happens. Then Alex walked in, and I could tell straight away. He was excited, nervous, but excited. Because for the first time since this thing got wrecked, it actually looked like a Bugatti again. Not scrap. Not some insurance write-off. A real car. A stupidly expensive car. Alex just stood there staring at it for a second. And honestly, I don't blame him. Imagine crashing your multi-million-dollar hypercar, watching the insurance company basically call it dead, then somehow seeing it sitting here again, looking like it might actually survive. But there was one problem. Actually, several problems. We still had no idea if the electronics were going to talk to each other. No clue if the gearbox was happy. No clue if the ECU was about to throw a tantrum and lock us out completely. And worst of all, we had no idea if all the systems we'd disconnected would even wake back up. This car had been split in half. Literally. Nobody casually rebuilds a Chiron in a workshop and expects life to be easy. Then came the moment. The moment every rebuild channel lives for. Battery connected. Fuel system primed. Everything checked. Twice. Then checked again because nobody wants to be the guy who accidentally turns a $3 million Bugatti into fireworks. I looked at everyone. Everyone looked stressed. Even Alex looked stressed. And weirdly, nobody was really talking anymore. Because suddenly, this stopped being YouTube. This became real. If this thing fired up, everything changes. The doubters go quiet. The comments change. The entire project shifts. But if it didn't, we'd be back to square one. Or worse. I sat there thinking about everything. Bugatti saying this couldn't be repaired. The locked VIN. The parts nightmare. The CEO publicly explaining why independent rebuilds like this weren't supposed to happen. And now, we were standing here about to prove whether they were right or completely wrong. Key in. Deep breath. First attempt. Nothing. Silence. And that silence? Horrible. Nobody says anything because everyone's thinking the same thing. Please don't let this be catastrophic. Then suddenly, a weird sound. Fuel pump whining. Electronics flickering. Tiny little signs of life. Not enough to celebrate, but enough to keep hope alive. We checked connections again. Went over everything. One plug. One sensor. One loose connection could ruin everything. And honestly, at this point we were basically winging parts of it. Not because we wanted to. Because we had no other option. There isn't a handbook for rebuilding a wrecked Bugatti in a workshop. Nobody's done this. At least not like this. Second attempt. The tension? Honestly, ridiculous. Nobody moving. Nobody breathing. And then, life. Actual life. The engine wakes up. Not perfectly. Not dramatically. But enough. Enough to remind everyone that underneath all this chaos, this thing still wanted to live. And I swear, for a second, nobody knew how to react. You spend months fighting a project like this. Stress, sleepless nights, constant setbacks, financial pain, and suddenly, you hear an engine. An engine everyone told you would probably never run again. That moment? Hard to explain. Alex looked completely shocked. I was shocked. Everyone was. Because suddenly this stopped being some crazy internet rebuild. This became possible. But here's the thing. Starting an engine? That's not winning. Not even close. Because now comes the dangerous part. Cooling systems. Leaks. Hidden damage. State inspection nightmares. Structural questions. And the biggest one of all. Can this thing actually drive like a Bugatti again? Or have we built the world's fastest driveway ornament? Because firing up for a few seconds in a workshop? Very different from flying down the road at real speed. That's where things get serious. And if one thing's become painfully clear through this whole project, it's this. Nobody really knows what happens next. Not Bugatti. Not Alex. Not even me. But I'll tell you something. When this project started, people laughed. Said it was impossible. Said we were wasting time. Said this car was finished. Done. Dead. And maybe they were right. Maybe there's still something waiting to destroy this whole project. But standing there, hearing that engine come back to life, for the first time since this whole madness began, it felt like we might actually pull this off. Or completely blow it up trying. Either way, we're too far in to stop now.